The metal floor was cold against Kim Nari's face as she slowly opened her eyes. Her head pounded like someone had hit her with a hammer. The last thing she remembered was the bright flash of light when the alien ship's weapon hit her patrol vessel. Now she was somewhere else entirely. She lay still for a moment, listening. Strange voices spoke in harsh, clicking sounds around her. The air smelled wrong, thick and metallic, like old blood mixed with machine oil. Slowly, she turned her head. To look around without moving her body, the room was made of dark metal with no windows. Dim blue lights hung from the ceiling, casting eerie shadows on the walls. She was lying on the floor of what looked like a cage. The bars were thick and hummed with electricity. Beyond her cage she could see other prisoners in similar cells. Most of them were aliens she had never seen before. One looked like a giant insect with 4 arms. Another was covered in thick fur and had tusks like a wild boar. They all looked defeated, sitting quietly in their cages with their heads down. 2 alien guards stood near her cage, talking in their clicking language. They were tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like leather. Their heads were too long, and their mouths had too many teeth. Black eyes without pupils stared at everything with cold interest. These had to be the Vorthok that Earth Command had warned about. Nari had been a military cadet for 3 years. She was only 19, but she had learned to stay calm in dangerous situations. Her training told her to gather information first, then look for ways to escape. She listened to the guards talk, trying to understand their words. After a few minutes, she realized they were discussing her. The clicks and growls meant nothing to her, but their body language was clear enough. They kept pointing at her and making gestures that looked like they were measuring her size. One of the guards noticed she was awake. He walked over to her cage and stared down at her with those terrible black eyes. He said something to his partner, and they both made sounds that might have been laughter. The guard pressed something on his belt, and suddenly spoke in broken human language. Small human female awake now. Good. Arena masters want to see what Earth creatures can do. Nari's blood went cold. Arena, that meant fights. That meant death matches for entertainment. She had heard rumors about alien planets that used captured beings as gladiators, but she never thought she would end up in one. She sat up slowly, trying not to show how scared she was. Where am I? The guard's mouth opened wider, showing rows of sharp teeth. Vorthok Prime, greatest world in galaxy. You are in Galactic Coliseum now. Many beings come here to watch death games. What do you want with me? Human females very rare here. Crowd will pay much money to watch you die. Betting. Pool's already started. Most think you last maybe 30 seconds against real predators. The other guard said something in their language and they both made that laughing sound again. The first guard looked back at Nari. My friend says maybe 15 seconds. Humans very weak. Soft skin, small teeth, no claws. What use are you in? Fight? Nari did not answer. She was thinking fast. These aliens thought humans were weak because they did not know much about her species. That might be an advantage if she was smart about it. The guards lost interest in her and walked away to check on other prisoners. Nari used this time to study her surroundings more carefully. The cage was about 3 meters square. The lock was electronic, probably controlled by the guards' belt devices. The floor had small drains in the corners, probably for cleaning up blood after fights. She looked at the other prisoners again. The insect creature was watching her with compound eyes that reflected the blue light. When it saw her looking, it moved closer to the bars between their cages. You understand my words, human? It asked in a voice like rustling leaves. Nari was surprised. You speak my language? Translation device in my head. Forced implant when they captured me 6 months ago. I'm called Vex of the Third Hive. I'm Nari. How long have you been here? Too long. Watched many fights. Learned much about how Arena works. Vex moved closer, keeping his voice low. They put different creatures together. Sometimes small fights with 2 or 3. Sometimes big shows with many predators. What kind of predators? Worst kinds from all over galaxy. Things that hunt for sport. Things that kill for pleasure. Arena masters collect them from death worlds and prison planets. Nari felt her stomach tighten. How many prisoners survive? Vex was quiet for a moment. In 6 months I have seen maybe 3 survive their first fight. None survive their second. What about you? Why are you still here? I am good fighter. Win enough times to stay alive. But arena masters get bored with winners eventually. They make fights harder and harder until even champions die. A new sound echoed through the prison area. Heavy footsteps were coming down a metal corridor. The other prisoners immediately moved to the back of their cages and sat down with their heads lowered. Arena Master comes, Vex whispered. Do not show fear. Do not show anger. They enjoy both. The footsteps got louder. Soon, a massive figure appeared in the doorway. This alien was different from the guards. Much bigger, with thick armor covering most of his body. His head was shaped like a hammer, with small red eyes set deep in bone ridges. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding stone. Which one is human female? One of the guards pointed at Nari's cage. The arena master walked over and stared at her for a long time. She stared back, keeping her face blank. Very small, he said finally. Crowd expects good show. 5 apex predators already chosen for your welcome fight. 5? One of the guards asked, sounding surprised. Special exhibition. Rare human female versus 5 champion killers. Betting already reached million credits. Everyone wants to see how long soft earth creature lasts. The arena master turned to leave, then stopped. Fight happens tomorrow at peak sun. Give her water and food scraps. Want her healthy enough to run when predators are released? After he left, the prison area was very quiet. Even the guards seemed nervous now. 5 apex predators was more than most experienced gladiators ever faced. Vex moved close to the bars again. 5 predators, very bad news, human Nari. They only do that when they want to make example of someone. Nari nodded, but inside her mind was already working. She had 18 hours before the fight. 18 hours to learn everything she could about these predators and the arena layout. 18 hours to figure out how to turn their expectations against them. The guards thought she was weak. The arena master thought she would provide entertainment by running and screaming. The crowd expected her to die quickly. Maybe that was exactly what she needed them to think. The food they brought Nari was barely edible. It looked like gray paste mixed with chunks of something that might have been meat. The water tasted like metal, but she forced herself to eat and drink everything. She would need all her strength. For tomorrow. As the hours passed, more prisoners were brought to the holding area. Most were thrown into cages and left to sit in silence. But one new arrival was different. When the guards shoved him into the cage next to Nari, she heard him curse in perfect human language. Another human, she whispered once the guards were gone. The man looked up at her with tired eyes. He was older than her, maybe 30, with short black hair and scars on his arms. Li Jiwan, he said quietly. Former cargo ship captain. You? Kim Nari, military cadet. How long have you been here? 4 months. Long enough to learn how this place works. Jiwan moved closer to the bars between their cages. You're the one they're talking about. The special exhibition tomorrow. What do you know about it? Jiwan was quiet for a moment. Nothing good? I've watched a lot of fights from my cage. They usually start new prisoners with 1 or 2 weak predators, test their fighting skills. But 5 apex predators? That's execution disguised as entertainment. Tell me about the arena. Big circular space, maybe 200 meters across. Different sections with rocks, sand, some metal structures. Crowd sits all around in rising levels. Maybe 20,000 aliens watching each fight. Nari tried to picture it in her mind. What about weapons? Basic stuff, metal rod, sometimes a knife, nothing advanced. They want the predators to have advantages. And the predators? Yuan's face grew dark. The worst killers in the galaxy. Arena masters collect them from death worlds. Some are intelligent hunters, others are just pure killing machines. All of them are designed to murder. A new voice joined their conversation. It was Vex, the insect creature from the cage on Nari's other side. Human Jiwan speaks truth. I have seen 5 apex predator fights 3 times. No prisoner survived past 1 minute. What kind of predators? Nari asked. Different each time, Vex replied, but always chosen for maximum terror. Flying killers, invisible stalkers, armored crushers. Arena masters like to mix different hunting styles. Jiwan nodded. The crowd loves variety. They bet on which predator will kill the prisoner first, how long the fight will last, whether the prisoner will scream or beg. Do they ever bet on the prisoner winning? Both Jiwan and Vex stared at her. No, Jiwan said slowly, because prisoners don't win against 5 apex predators. It's not possible. Everything is possible, Nari said. Just depends on how you approach the problem. This isn't a problem to solve, Jiwan said, his voice getting louder. This is a death sentence. They want to make an example of humans. Show the galaxy that Earth people are weak prey animals. Keep your voice down, Vex warned. Guards do not like loud talking. But Jiwan was getting upset. You don't understand. I've been here 4 months. I've won 12 fights, 12, and they're still going to kill me eventually. The arena masters always make the fights harder until even champions die. It's not about winning. It's about entertainment. Then why do you keep fighting? Because the alternative is worse. Prisoners who refuse to fight get fed to the predators alive? At least in the arena, I have a weapon and a chance to make it quick. Nari absorbed this information. The system was designed to break prisoners mentally before they ever entered the arena. Make them believe death was inevitable. Make them fight without hope. What happens to the bodies? She asked. Cleaned up between fights, Vex answered. Sometimes they show pieces to the crowd if the death was particularly entertaining. And the crowd? What are they like? Yuan leaned back against his cage wall. Mostly Vorthak, but other alien species too. Rich ones who pay huge amounts to watch death games. They dress up fancy, eat expensive food, make loud noises when someone dies. Do they understand humans? Some do. Translation devices are common among the wealthy. They like to hear prisoners scream in their native languages. What about the arena masters? Do they watch the fights? From a special viewing area, Vex said. High up, protected by force fields, they control everything from there. When to release predators, when to add new dangers, when to end fights. Nari was building a mental picture of the entire setup. How many arena masters? 3 main ones, Jawan replied. Warden Gorthek is the biggest. He makes the final decisions. The other 2 handle different parts of the operation. And they're all Vorthek? Yes, this is their homeworld. Their empire controls dozens of star systems. The arena is like their national sport. A guard walked past their cages, checking on the prisoners. He stopped near Nari's cage and made clicking sounds to his partner. They both looked at her and made that laughing noise again. What are they saying? Nari asked Vex quietly. They are discussing betting odds. Currently, no one expects you to survive more than 20 seconds. Most bets are on which predator will make the kill. What are the odds? 1,000 to 1. Against you winning. Nari smiled for the first time since her capture. Those are very good odds. Jiwan stared at her like she had lost her mind. Good odds for the people betting against you. Or very profitable odds for anyone brave enough to bet on me. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about math. The conversation was interrupted by new sounds from the corridor. Heavy machinery was moving something large. The prisoners could hear scraping and grinding noises, followed by the roars of angry animals. They're moving the predators into position, Vex said. Getting them ready for tomorrow's fights? The roars got louder. One sounded like a massive bird of prey. Another was a deep growling that seemed to come from something the size of a building. A third was a high-pitched shriek that hurt to hear. 5 different hunting styles, Jawan said. Grimly, they want to make sure at least one of them gets you. Maybe, Nari said. Or maybe they're giving me 5 different ways to solve the same problem? What problem? How to convince 20,000 aliens that they've been underestimating humans. Jiwan and Vex looked at each other across the narrow space between cages. The human woman was either very brave or completely insane. "You have a plan?" Vex asked. "Working on it. Tell me more about the arena layout." "Every detail you can remember." For the next several hours, Jiwan and Vex described everything they knew about the fighting space. The types of terrain, the sight lines, the weak points in the barriers. Neri listened carefully, asking specific questions about angles, distances, and timing. "Why does this matter?" Yuan asked eventually. "Because tomorrow those arena masters are going to learn something new about humans. We don't just survive, we adapt, we improvise, and we win." As the prison area grew quiet for the night, Nari lay on the cold floor and stared at the ceiling. In 12 hours, she would face 5 apex predators in front of 20,000 screaming aliens. She closed her eyes and began to plan. The morning came too quickly. Nari woke to the sound of metal doors slamming and guards shouting orders. She had managed to sleep for a few hours, but her mind had been busy even in dreams. Every detail Jiwan and Vex had told her was now organized. In her memory, like a military briefing, 2 guards stopped at her cage. One of them was carrying electronic shackles and a bundle of gray cloth. "Time for arena preparation, human female." They opened her cage and clamped the shackles around her wrists and ankles. The metal was cold and hummed with electricity. If she tried to run, they could send painful shocks through her body. "Move," the second guard ordered. Pushing her forward with his weapon, they led her through a maze of corridors carved from dark stone. Other prisoners were being moved too, but they were going in different directions. Nari realized the arena had many holding areas and preparation rooms. They stopped at a small chamber with stone walls and a single blue light hanging from the ceiling. The guards removed her shackles and threw the bundle of cloth at her feet. "Put on arena clothes, old clothes go in corner." The arena clothes were simple. Gray pants that came to her knees, a gray shirt with short sleeves, and soft boots that fit reasonably well. The material was thin but strong. It would not tear easily. But it would not stop claws or teeth either. When she finished changing, one of the guards looked her up and down. "Very small for arena fighter. Crowd will be disappointed if you die too quickly. I'll try not to disappoint them." The guard made that clicking laugh sound. Human humor, very strange. "You will not be laughing when predators are released." They led her to another room where a Vorthak in expensive robes was waiting. This one was different from the guards. His skin was darker and he had metal decorations embedded in his skull. When he spoke, his voice was smoother, more educated. "I am Arena Keeper Zornak. I explain rules and choose your weapon." He looked at her with those black eyes. "Rules are simple. Survive as long as possible. Try to entertain crowd. Die with some dignity if you can manage it." "What about winning?" Zornak made a sound that might have been laughter. "Winning against 5 apex predators? Impossible. But if by some miracle you kill 1 predator, fight continues. If you kill 2, crowd gets excited. If you kill 3, you become legend before you die. And if I kill all 5? Then you become free gladiator with your own chambers and better food, but this will not happen. In 200 years of arena history, no prisoner has killed 5 apex predators in single combat." Zornak walked to a wall rack filled with weapons. Most of them looked old and worn. "Choose your weapon, only 1 allowed." Nari studied the options. There were swords of different lengths, spears, clubs, and axes. All were made of simple metal without any advanced technology. She picked up several weapons to test their weight and balance. Finally, she chose a metal rod about as long as her arm. It was straight, solid, and had enough weight to deliver serious damage. More importantly, it was simple and reliable. "Interesting choice," Zornak said. "Most prisoners choose swords or spears. Why metal rod?" "It does what I need it to do." "And what is that? You'll see." Zornak led her to a final preparation room with a large window. Through the glass, she could see into the arena for the first time. It was even bigger than Jiwan had described. The fighting space was perfectly circular, about 200 meters across. The floor was covered in sand except for several raised areas with rocks and metal structures. There were also shallow pits and small barriers scattered around the arena. Rising up from the arena floor were rows and rows of seats filled with aliens. Nari had never seen so many different species in one place. Most were Vorthak, but she could see others too. All of them were dressed in expensive clothes and jewelry. All of them were excited and loud. 23,000 in attendance today, Zornik said proudly. Largest crowd this season. Word of human-female fighting 5 apex predators has spread. Across the sector? What about the predators? Can I see them? Of course. Part of the show? Zornik pressed a control on the wall. 5 large gates around the arena's edge began to rise, but only a little. Just enough for the crowd to see what was waiting inside. The first gate revealed a creature that looked like a nightmare combination of bird and lizard. It stood 8 feet tall with armored skin that gleamed like metal. Its arms ended in blade-like claws that could probably cut through steel. When it moved, Nari could see the muscle definition under its armor. This had to be a Krelian razor beast. The second gate showed something that was harder to see clearly. The air around it seemed to bend and shift, making it almost invisible. But Nari could make out a general shape, roughly human-sized but moving wrong, like a spider pretending to be a person. A Theshan Shadowstalker with natural camouflage, behind. The third gate was something that made the crowd roar with approval. A massive creature that looked like a Volf crossed with a bear, but 3 times larger than either. Its shoulders were as high as Nari's head, and its jaws could probably bite her in half. The Bruthan warhound paced back and forth, eager for the hunt. The fourth gate held a flying predator with wings that spanned at least 12 feet. Its body was sleek and built for speed, with talons designed for grabbing prey from above. When it opened its beak, the sound that came out was like a sonic weapon. The Zephyrian Sky Ripper was ready to attack from the air. The last gate was the most disturbing. The creature inside glowed with heat, its body looking like living lava barely contained in a rock shell. When it moved, the sand under its feet turned to glass. The molten core tunneler could burrow through almost anything, and its touch could burn flesh from bones. Magnificent, are they not? Zornik asked. Each one chosen from the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy. Each one a perfect killing machine. Nari studied each predator carefully, watching how they moved, how they reacted to the crowd noise, how they positioned themselves in their holding areas. Her military training kicked in automatically, analyzing threats and looking for weaknesses. The Razor Beast relies on speed and cutting power, she said quietly, but armor that heavy slows it down in turns. The Shadowstalker uses camouflage, which means it probably has weaker physical defenses. The Warhound is a pack hunter, so it might hesitate when there's no pack to coordinate with. The Sky Ripper attacks from above, which limits its angle of approach, and the tunneler glows with heat, which means I can track it even underground. Zornik stared at her. You speak like military analyst, not terrified prisoner. I was a military cadet before your people captured me. Interesting. Perhaps you will last longer than expected. 30 seconds instead of 20. The crowd noise was getting louder. Somewhere above them, announcers were explaining the upcoming fight in multiple languages. Betting totals were being displayed on massive screens around the arena. Current odds are 1,200 to 1 against you, Zornik said, checking a display device. Total betting pool has reached 15 million credits. Most popular bet is which predator kills you first. And if someone bet on me winning? 1 person has made such bet. 1,000 credits on human victory. If you somehow win, they receive 1.2 million credits. Nari smiled. Smart bet. An insane bet. But it adds to the entertainment value. A loud horn sounded throughout the arena. The crowd began chanting something in the Vorthak language. Time to go, Zornik said. Try to run around the arena at least once before you die. Crowd enjoys the chase. They walked through a tunnel that led directly onto the arena floor. The sand was soft under Nari's feet, and the air smelled like sweat and fear from previous fights. The crowd noise was overwhelming, thousands of voices, screaming in dozens of languages. I walked to the center of the arena and looked up at the crowd. Then she raised her metal rod above her head and turned in a slow circle, making eye contact with as many aliens as possible. The crowd loved it. They thought she was showing off before her death. Actually, she was counting exit routes and measuring distances. The horn sounded again. In 30 seconds, all 5 gates would open at once. Nari took a deep breath and prepared to show the galaxy what humans could do. The final horn blast echoed across the arena. All 5 gates began to rise with grinding mechanical sounds. The crowd fell silent for just a moment, then erupted in wild cheering as the apex predators emerged from their holding areas. Nari did not wait to see what they would do. The moment the gates started opening, she was already running toward the rocky outcrop on the eastern side of the arena. Her military training had taught her that positioning was everything in combat. Never let your enemies choose the battlefield. Behind her, she could hear the predators emerging. The Sky Ripper screeched as it launched itself into the air. The Warhound howled with bloodlust. The Razor Beast's claws scraped against stone as it charged forward. The Shadow Stalker made no sound at all, which made it the most dangerous. Nari reached the rocks in 3 seconds. The formation was perfect for what she needed, a cluster of boulders about 10 feet high with narrow gaps between them. Only 1 or 2 predators could attack her at the same time from this position. The Sky Ripper attacked first, just as she had expected. Flying predators always wanted to strike fast before ground-based hunters could interfere. It dove toward her with talons extended, planning to grab her and carry her up for the kill, but Nari was not where it expected her to be. As the creature swooped down, she rolled to the side and swung her metal rod upward with both hands. The rod caught the Sky Ripper in the wing joint just as it tried to pull up from its dive. The impact sent the flying predator crashing sideways into the charging Razor Beast. Both creatures went down in a tangle of wings, claws, and armored limbs. The crowd gasped in surprise. This was not how these fights usually started. 6 seconds gone. 4 predators still active. The Shadow Stalker tried to use the confusion to its advantage. It activated its camouflage and became nearly invisible, just a faint shimmer in the air. But Nari had been watching for this. She grabbed a handful of sand and threw it in a wide arc around her position. The sand stuck to the Shadow Stalker's invisible form, outlining its body like a ghost made of grit. Before it could react, Nari lunged forward and drove the pointed end of her metal rod through the creature's throat. Dark blood sprayed across the sand as the Shadow Stalker collapsed. The crowd was no longer cheering. They were staring in shocked silence. A human had just killed one of the apex predators. 10 seconds gone. 3 predators left. The Warhound had circled around the rock formation and was now charging at Nari from her blind side. But she had heard its heavy footsteps on the sand. As it leaped toward her, she grabbed the dead Shadow Stalker and used its body as a shield. The Warhound's massive jaws clamped down on the corpse instead of on Nari. While it was confused and trying to spit out the bitter-tasting flesh, she rolled between its legs and came up on its back. The Warhound bucked and twisted, trying to throw her off. But Nari wrapped her legs around its thick neck and held on. She raised the metal rod above her head and brought it down hard on the base of the creature's skull, right where the spine met the brain. The Warhound dropped to the sand and did not move again. 14 seconds gone. 2 predators remaining. The Razor Beast had untangled itself from the wounded Sky Ripper and was advancing on Nari with deadly purpose. Its blade claws extended to full length, ready to slice her into pieces. At the same time, the ground under her feet began to grow hot. The tunneler was approaching from below. This was the moment Nari had been planning for. She ran toward the damaged section of the arena wall where maintenance crews had been working earlier. Loose stones and metal debris were scattered around the base of the wall. The Razor Beast followed her, moving faster now. Its heavy armor limited its speed, but it was still gaining ground. Behind them, the Sky Ripper was struggling to its feet. With one wing hanging at an odd angle, the sand beneath Nari began to glow with heat. The tunneler was directly below her now, preparing to burst through the surface with its molten body. But Neri had counted on this dot. She leaped onto a pile of loose stones just as the tunneler erupted from the sand like a living volcano. Its superheated body was aimed at where she had been standing a split second before. Instead, the tunneler slammed directly into the charging razor beast. The armored predator's screech was cut short as the molten creature's heat began melting through its protective scales. Both predators crashed into the arena wall in a shower of sparks and steam. 17 seconds gone. One predator left. The Sky Ripper was still alive but badly injured. It could not fly with its damaged wing, but it could still attack with beak and talons. It limped toward Nari, making that terrible sonic screech that hurt her ears and made her vision blur, but the creature's injury changed how it moved. It favored its good wing, which threw off its balance. Nari waited until it was close enough to strike, then she did something completely unexpected. Instead of dodging away from the attack, she ran straight at the Sky Ripper. Her metal rod was held low, like a spear. The predator opened its beak wide to deliver a killing bite, but Nari slid under its head and drove the rod upward through the soft tissue under its jaw. The point of the rod punched through the roof of the creature's mouth and into its brain. The Sky Ripper's eyes went blank and it toppled forward, nearly crushing Nari under its weight. 18 seconds. All 5 apex predators were dead. The arena was completely silent. 23,000 aliens sat in their seats without making a sound. Even the announcers had stopped talking. Nari stood in the center of the arena, covered in blood and sand, holding her bent metal rod. She looked up at the crowd and then at the VIP section where the arena masters were sitting. Their faces showed pure shock and disbelief. Then slowly, one alien in the crowd began to clap. Then another, then a whole section. Within moments, the entire arena was erupting in applause and cheers louder than anything they had produced before, but the cheers were different now. They were not the bloodthirsty screams of a crowd watching a death match. They were the odd cheers of beings who had just witnessed something impossible. A small human girl had killed 5 apex predators in 80 seconds, and she was still standing. The applause died away slowly, leaving the arena in strange quiet. Nari stood among the bodies of the 5 apex predators, breathing hard but not showing any other signs of exhaustion. The metal rod in her hand was bent from the impacts, but she held it ready in case more threats appeared. In the VIP section, Warden Gorthik leaned forward in his massive chair. His hammer-shaped head tilted as he stared down at the small human figure in the arena. For the first time in his long career, as arena master, he did not know what to do next. "Impossible," whispered Arena Keeper Zornek, who was standing beside Gorthik's chair. 5 apex predators in 18 seconds. The timing systems must be malfunctioning. "Check them," Gorthik ordered without taking his eyes off Nari. One of the technicians ran to the control panels. After a few moments, he looked up with confusion on his alien face. "All systems functioning normally, Warden. Time recorded is accurate. 18.7 seconds from gate opening to final kill." The other arena masters were equally stunned. Master Vax, who controlled the betting systems, was staring at his displays in disbelief. "Total payout if the human is declared winner would be 1.2 million credits to a single bettor. But the rules do not cover this situation." "What do you mean?" Gorthik asked. "No prisoner has ever survived a 5 apex predator exhibition. We have no protocols for victory conditions." Down in the arena, Nari had walked to the center of the fighting space. She looked up at the VIP section and spoke in a clear voice that carried well in the sudden quiet. "I believe the rules state that killing all predators makes me a free gladiator." Her words were picked up by the arena's sound system and broadcast to the entire crowd. A ripple of excitement went through the stands. The aliens began talking among themselves in dozens of different languages. Gorthik activated his communication device. Human female approached the VIP barrier for judgment. Nari walked across the sand, stepping around the cooling bodies of her opponents. When she reached the high wall that separated the arena floor from the crowd seating, She looked up at the arena masters without any sign of fear or submission. "State your name and world of origin," Gorthik commanded. "Kim Nari of Earth. You have achieved something unprecedented in the history of this arena. 5 apex predators killed in single combat. According to ancient rules, this grants you status as free gladiator with your own chambers and improved conditions." "And my freedom to leave?" Gorthik paused. This was not a question usually asked by new gladiators. Most were simply grateful to be alive. Free gladiators may request departure after completing 1 full season of victories. Minimum 12 successful fights. I see, and if I refuse to fight in future matches? Then you forfeit your gladiator status and return to prisoner conditions. Eventually you would face execution for disobedience. Nari nodded as if she had expected this answer. "What about the human male in the prison cells?" "Li Jiwan, he has been here for months and won many fights. He remains a gladiator until he loses or dies." "Why do you ask about him?" "Just curious about how your system works." Something in her tone made Gorthik uneasy. The human was too calm, too analytical. Most gladiators who survived their first major fight were either terrified or drunk with bloodlust. This one seemed to be studying him like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. "Guards will escort you to gladiator quarters," Gorthik announced. "Your first scheduled fight as free gladiator will be announced tomorrow." "Actually," Nari said, "I have a different proposal." The crowd fell silent again. Even the other arena masters stopped their conversations to listen. "I challenge you to allow Earth to send a diplomatic team to negotiate for the release of all human prisoners currently held in Vorthak space." Gorthik's laugh was like grinding stone. "You think one victory gives you the right to make demands of the Vorthak Empire? I think one victory proves that your empire has been making some incorrect assumptions about human capabilities. Such as assuming we are weak prey animals suitable only for entertainment." Nari gestured toward the dead predators. "I just killed 5 of your best apex predators using basic tactics and a metal rod. If this is what one untrained human cadet can do, imagine what a trained human military unit might accomplish." The implications of her words spread through the crowd like ripples on water. Aliens who had been cheering for her victory suddenly looked nervous. If humans could fight like this, what did that mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? Gorthik stood up slowly, his massive frame casting a shadow across the arena. "You speak of military units. Are you threatening the Vorthak Empire?" "I'm offering information. My capture was not accidental. Earth's military has been tracking your slaving operations for months. They know exactly where I am. Then why have they not attacked?" "Because they wanted to understand your capabilities first. Now they have that information." Gorthik looked at his fellow arena masters. They were all thinking the same thing. If Earth had military units that could fight like this human girl, the Vorthak Empire might be facing a much more dangerous enemy than they had realized. "What exactly are you proposing?" Gorthik asked carefully. "Simple negotiation. Release all human prisoners in your territory. In exchange, Earth will consider opening diplomatic relations instead of military action. And if we refuse?" Nari smiled, and for the first time since entering the arena, she looked genuinely dangerous. "Then you'll find out what happens when humans stop playing by your rules." The arena was completely silent now. 23,000 aliens held their breath, waiting to see how their leaders would respond to this unprecedented challenge. Gorthik stared down at the small human female, who had just changed everything. In 18 seconds of combat, she had not only survived the impossible, she had turned a death sentence into a diplomatic opportunity. For the first time in Vorthak history, a prisoner was negotiating with the Empire as an equal. "We will consider your proposal," Gorthik said finally. "Until then, you remain here as free gladiator?" "I understand. But I should mention one more thing." "Which is?" "This entire fight was broadcast across your communication networks, correct? Standard arena policy?" "Yes, all major exhibitions are transmitted throughout the Empire." "Good. Then every world in Vorthak space now knows that humans are not the Weak prey species you claimed we were? That information might be useful for other species currently under your control. The full impact of what she had done began to sink in. The arena broadcast had not just shown human fighting ability to the Vorthak leadership. It had shown it to every conquered species, every slave world, every potential rebel who had been waiting for proof that the Empire could be challenged. Gorthak realized that 18 seconds of combat had just planted the seeds of revolution. Throughout his empire, and the human girl was still smiling. 3 days after the arena fight, the Vorthak Empire received an unexpected visitor. A human fleet appeared at the edge of their star system, broadcasting diplomatic credentials and requesting permission to dock at the main orbital station. The fleet was led by Admiral Park Hyunwoo aboard the Earthship Determination. When the Vorthak authorities demanded to know how humans had found their heavily defended home system, the Admiral's response was simple. We followed the trail of our missing people. Warden Gorthak found himself in the unusual position of hosting peace negotiations instead of planning death matches. The meeting took place in the arena's main conference room, with both sides seated at a long table that had been hastily prepared for diplomacy. Instead of entertainment, Admiral Park was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes that missed nothing. Beside him sat Captain Choi Minho, who had been Nari's commanding officer before her capture. Both men wore dress uniforms that looked simple but somehow managed to project more authority than all the Vorthak officials' fancy decorations. Let us begin with the obvious question, Gorthak said. How did one of your people accomplish what she did in the arena? You mean, how did she survive? Admiral Park replied. The same way humans have survived everything else. We adapt, we think. We refuse to give up, but 5 apex predators were dangerous opponents, yes, but they were also predictable. Each species hunts in specific ways. Cadet Kim analyzed their behavior patterns and used their strengths against them. Captain Choi leaned forward. With respect, Warden Gorthak, your mistake was assuming that physical strength determines combat effectiveness. Humans have been fighting predators much larger than ourselves for thousands of years. We learned to use tools, tactics, and terrain instead of claws and teeth. Are all humans capable of such combat performance? Admiral Park smiled. Cadet Kim was still in training when you captured her. She had not yet completed her advanced combat courses. The Vorthak officials exchanged worried glances. If this was an untrained human, what could their fully trained military do? However, the Admiral continued, we are not here to discuss military capabilities. We are here to discuss the release of human prisoners and the future of relations between our species. What exactly do you want? Gorthak asked. All human prisoners in Vorthak space return to Earth immediately. Compensation for damages. A formal agreement to end slaving operations in human territory. And in exchange, Earth will not share certain information with other species currently under Vorthak control. What information? Captain Choi activated a small device that projected a holographic star map. It showed the Vorthak Empire with all its conquered worlds, trade routes, and military installations marked in precise detail. We know the location of every Vorthak military base, supply depot, and communication station within 50 light-years of Earth. We know which worlds are planning rebellions, and which ones are still loyal. We know the real strength of your fleet, and the weaknesses in your defensive positions. Gorthak stared at the map in shock. How could you possibly have gathered this intelligence? The same way we found your home system. We are very good at finding things when we need to. Admiral Park gestured to the hologram. This information would be extremely valuable to species that are currently fighting for their freedom from Vorthak rule, the Zelani resistance, for example, or the free colonies of the Outer Rim. You would share military intelligence with rebels? Only if necessary. We prefer diplomatic solutions. The negotiations continued for several hours. In the end, the Vorthak Empire agreed to most of Earth's demands. All human prisoners would be released within 30 days. Slaving operations in human space would cease immediately. Financial compensation would be paid for damages and suffering. In exchange, Earth would keep its intelligence information private and establish limited trade relations with the Vorthak Empire. As the formal agreements were being signed, Gorthik asked one final question. Was Cadet Kim's capture really accidental? Admiral Park and Captain Choi looked at each other. Finally, the Admiral answered. Cadet Kim volunteered for a dangerous reconnaissance mission. Her ship was deliberately placed in a position where Vorthak slavers would find it. She volunteered to be captured? She volunteered to gather intelligence about your empire's capabilities and leadership structure. The arena fight was an unexpected opportunity to demonstrate human combat effectiveness to your entire population. Gorthik felt a chill run through his body. You mean she planned to fight in the arena? She planned to survive whatever situation she found herself in and complete her mission. The arena fight was simply one possible scenario we had prepared her for. And the betting? Someone placed a large wager on her victory? Captain Choi smiled. Standard operating procedure. Earth intelligence always bets on its own people. The realization hit Gorthik like a physical blow. The humans had not just rescued their people, they had turned the entire situation into a carefully planned intelligence operation and propaganda victory. The arena broadcast ... double quote he began, has been copied and distributed to 17 different rebel groups across the galaxy, Admiral Park confirmed, along with tactical analysis of how small, determined forces can defeat seemingly superior opponents. You have been planning this for months. We have been planning for many different possibilities. This was just one of them. 2 hours later, Nari was brought from the gladiator quarters to join the meeting. She looked the same as when she had fought in the arena, small, young, and apparently harmless. But now Gorthik saw her differently. Cadet Kim, Admiral Park said formally. Mission. Report. Intelligence gathering successful, sir. Arena capabilities assessed. Leadership decision-making patterns observed. Cultural values and military priorities documented. And your personal status? Ready for extraction and next assignment, sir? Gorthik stared at her in amazement. You were gathering intelligence the entire time? Yes, sir. The arena fight provided excellent data on Vorthak crisis response, resource allocation, and strategic thinking patterns. But you could have died. That was always a possibility. But the mission was more important than my personal safety. Captain Choi stood up. That's enough debriefing for now. Let's get you back to the ship, Cadet. As they prepared to leave, Nari turned back to Gorthik. Thank you for the educational experience, Warden. The arena was very informative. Educational experience? I learned a lot about your species and your empire. Information that will be very useful for future diplomatic relations. She paused at the door. Oh, and Warden? You might want to review your security procedures. If one human cadet can infiltrate your most secure facility and defeat your best predators, you should probably assume that other species are capable of similar operations. After the humans left, Gorthik sat alone in the conference room, staring at the arena through the large windows. For 200 years, the Galactic Colosseum had been a symbol of Vorthak, power and superiority. Now it would be remembered as the place where everything changed, the place where a small human girl had killed 5 apex predators in 18 seconds, and turned the balance of galactic power upside down. The place where the galaxy learned that humans were not prey, animals to be hunted and captured. They were predators who had been hiding their true nature until the moment was right to reveal it. And that moment had arrived.